is the conversion of Saul on the road to Damascus. For there on that road, God transformed Saul, the persecutor of Christians, into Paul, the great professor, preacher of the Christian faith. So much changes here in this moment. The conversion of Saul on the road to Damascus is one of the great moments in our faith. And if it sounds familiar to you and you think that's not where I thought that was, it's because this story is recorded 3 separate times, almost exactly verbatim, all in the book of Acts. In chapter 9, that's where it falls naturally in the narrative of the story as it moves along and is told in the third person. Here, if you want to hear it again, in chapter 22, when Paul is defending himself before the crowd in Jerusalem. And if you haven't heard it enough yet, hear it again, because in chapter 26, it comes back when Paul is defending himself and telling his story when he's on trial before King Agrippa. Sometimes the question gets asked, why would Luke record this one story 3 times in this one book of the Bible? Well, I don't know. But I tell you what my best guess is. I think the reason that Luke tells this story 3 times is because Paul told this story 3,000 times. I think every time Paul came into a new city, he made his way to the synagogue, or he found believers and he told them the story of his conversion on the Damascus road. Every time he was invited to share a meal in someone's house, he told them the story of how his life was changed on the road to Damascus. Every time someone asked him, is Jesus really real? Is he alive? Can he make a difference in my life? Paul told them the story of his conversion on the road to Damascus. And you can't tell Paul's story without telling this story. We can't hardly tell the gospel story without telling this story. And so we tell it time and time and time again. Some stories we just want to hear more than one time. We read books we like more than one time. I've heard Thomas Coker, when he's launching into a story, say, now, if you've heard me tell this before, don't stop me because I want to hear it again myself. Missy's dad has a sermon called The Gospel According to Doak. I have no idea how many times he's preached that sermon, but I can tell you the honest truth that he has been invited around the country, even in places around the world, not just to preach, but to preach that sermon. Would you come to us and preach the gospel according to Doak? People hear that sermon, it resonates with them. They catch something of the gospel they had missed before. They want to share it with someone else. They find a tape or a CD, or they tell parts of the story themselves, or they ask Dan to come preach it. And the sermon is exactly what it says it is. It is an explanation of the gospel through the events in the life of Missy's younger brother, Doak. That is the way that works itself out. The truth is, though, we all have a story to tell. Missy's dad is one of the best people I have ever known at hearing a story and discerning its value for explaining a particular point, using it to illustrate something. But all of us have stories to tell. Because God is alive in you, your life is a letter being written by the Spirit of the living God. And if you'll let people read the letter, if you'll share your story with them, you'll discover in ways that you can't even begin to imagine, you'll connect with them. If we connect with people who speak at a podium we've never met before, if we connect with fictional characters and total strangers on television because of their stories, imagine the power that your story has with people that you already know, with people who know you and are invested in you and care about you. All of us have a story to tell. Go this week to smbc.org and click on Main Blog. And there you'll find recounted in wonderful detail vignettes, story upon story upon story, of the things that God is doing in the lives of people around you this very morning. They've told a part of their story. They're encouraging, they're engaging, they're exciting stories because they're the stories of the people that we know and care about. What is your story? What's the content of your story? When do you tell it? With whom will you share it? You know, the simple, bold truth that every week I gather together with a group of people in Midtown Houston to worship our God and to study the Scripture and to share our lives and to do gospel work. And that this group of people has stood beside me in glad days and sad days alike, that they have celebrated with me and commiserated with me, and that their presence in my life makes all the difference to me. That because of the witness of living in and among this body of people, my life has been immeasurably enriched. And you know what? I think if you would come, you'd discover something wonderful here for you too. I think in the same way that their life together and our life together has enriched me, I think it would enrich you. That's a pretty good place to start. As you came into the sanctuary this morning, somebody should have handed you this card. Would you get that out and just take a look at it for a minute? We're 4 weeks now into our Share campaign. And it's our turn now. On this card is a listing of a number of events coming up in the life of the church in the next few months. And there on the front is a place for you to write the names of some people that you already know, and to note some things you think might be good options for them to come to, and then some check boxes beside that. What I'd like to challenge you to do today, what I'd like to double dog dare you to do, and you ain't nothing if you don't take a double dog dare, is to take this thing out this afternoon and spend some time praying and ask God to lead you to some names. Don't wait till Thursday or till October. Don't lose it. Hold on to it. Maybe some names will come immediately to you. Maybe you've already been praying and they'll be right on your mind and in your heart. Maybe they'll filter to you slowly over the course of the next few days. Keep the card handy. And write those names down and then look at the list and think, what would naturally connect to their interests already, and make a note of that. Then spend some more time praying and ask God to give you an opportunity to invite these folks to these events, and pray that God will give them an open mind and an open heart to receive your invitation. I told you Luke tells this story of Paul's conversion 3 times. I think he did that because Paul told it 3,000 times. I hope that that will be an encouragement to you to make more than one invitation, to tell your story more than one time, even to the same people. It's no accident, by the way, that there are exactly 7 check boxes right here. Let me tell you why that is. George Barna is the premier church demographer in the United States today. And his research indicates that the average person in America has to be invited to a church 7 times before they accept the invitation. I think sometimes we invite somebody to come to something. Hey, could you come to Beauty and the Beast? Bring your children, bring your grandchildren, bring your nieces and nephews. There's this great thing our youth are doing. And y'all were awesome, by the way. Here's this thing they're doing, and they say, oh, I can't. I've already got a commitment that day. And so we think, well, they're not interested in church, when really, they already had a commitment that day. We live in a world of schedules that are busy beyond measure, of skeptics, many of whom have been hurt by a church someplace else, somewhere else, and they're afraid, if I go with you, I'm just opening myself to be hurt again. Some of them question the sincerity of our motives. Are you inviting me because you get a gold star someplace for that, and you get extra credit in the good parking place at the church, and so it's not really me you're interested in. It's something for yourself. Tell the story again. Tell your story again. Find something else and invite them again. Stay steady. Not offensively so. You don't have to be odd for God, but in that sort of steady consistency, in that gracious hospitality where you open yourself to another and tell them what God has done for you and invite them into this place, I think it will make a difference. Because in that same way that we were created to connect to one another, and our stories have the power to do that, we are ultimately created to be in a relationship with God. It was Pascal who said, we have a God-shaped hole inside of us that nothing else can fill. Augustine who said, our hearts are made for Thee, O God, and do not rest until they find their rest in Thee. We are created to be in a relationship with God.